Hi, I'm Mark Haney. This is the introduction purpose by Mark Haney, my PowerPoint. I have watched 3 clips from our Teach Like a Champion 2.0, which are standardized the format Clip 2, Megan Ruler, Affirmative Checking Clip 6, Hillary Lewis, No Opt-Out Clip 9, David Jeffesis. I will address the following questions for each clip. Question 1, why are you key learning for this chip? Question 2, how did this information impact your thinking? Question 3, what information will you take with you and implement as a teacher and why? My key learning from this clip is to standardize the format. What are you key learnings for this clip? My key learning for this clip is to standardize the format of my classroom by collecting data on my students' understanding of the lesson presented. In this clip, Ms. Ruler collected data by first beginning with a vocabulary lesson by asking her students to read a sentence and then infer the meaning of the word disposition. She walked around the classroom to make sure the students were writing down what they thought the word meant, and she pointed out some good responses. According to our text, standardized the format is one of the most powerful tools for streaming data gathering and making your observation more efficient. It means designing materials and space so that you're looking in the same consistent place every time for the data you need. How did this information impact your thinking? I've learned that it's best to just let students be involved in the learning process by keeping them engaged. It's also a great idea to collect data during the lesson to make sure that the students are understanding and mastering the objectives of the lessons taught. What information will you take and implement as a teacher and why? I will design handouts that I will pass out to my students so that I will know where to look on the handout for their response. This will allow me to be more efficient and organized as a teacher because I will be able to look at the answers the students give with interpreting their thinking and concentration. In essence, your reflections on the work are no longer interrupted by a series of scavenger hunts. Personal and professional reflection. I could really see myself using the standardized format in my classroom because I can adapt it to different topics and lessons I teach. Most important, though, is that instead of experiencing all that energy just finding answers, you can use your cognitive capacity to concentrate on identifying trends among your students. It will also help me to become a more efficient and effective teacher. It will also allow my students to be familiar with the quality of work I expect from them. What are your key learning for the chip? My key learning for this chip is to teach students that I value quality clips. My key learning for the clips is to teach students that I value quality of their work over the speed in which they can complete their work. Another key learning aspect is to have students show me their work so that I can check for understanding. I also learned that I need to keep a supportive and warm tone of voice so that the students will feel comfortable answering whether they have the answer right or wrong. How did the information impact your thinking? This information made me aware of how important it is to check for the understanding throughout the lessons I teach. This will allow me to identify and help students that may be struggling before moving on to more difficult steps. It will also help me to be aware of my teaching strategy and techniques are effective so that I can modify and adjust accordingly. What information will you take with you and implement as a teacher? I will use the post-it note strategy to access my students' understanding before they start their independent work because this will help me to identify what students are struggling and eliminate responses like, I don't know how to do this. According to our text, students will all too commonly use this approach to push back on teachers when their unwillingness to track, lack of knowledge, or combination of two makes them do unsure or resistant. Personal and professional reference. In my opinion, the affirmative checking strategy will help me to know if my students have mastered the objectives of the lesson. It will also allow students the opportunity to be involved in their own learning process. According to our text, this system of affirmative checking also holds students and teachers accountable to each other for achieving the same goal. Mastery of the day's objective by design, the process of spotting and fixing errors becomes a shared endeavor. What are your key learnings for the clip? My key learning for the no opt-out strategy is to turn I don't know into success by ensuring that students who won't try or can't answer practice getting it right. I've learned to not just allow a student to give up just because they don't know the answer. As a teacher, I need to build up their confidence and allow them the opportunity to give me the correct answer after their classmates help them out. How does this information impact your thinking? This information really impacted my thinking because I don't like putting students on the spot or pointing them out when they do not know what the right answer is, so I would have to just go on to the next student. I really liked how Mr. David used the no opt-out approach because he was confrontational when he asked her follow-up questions. In her response, I don't know. He also allowed her to ask questions again and allowed her to get answers from her classmates. What information will you take with you and implement as a teacher? I will take the no opt-out strategy and use it in my classroom because I will give every student in my class practice getting the answer correct. I also like the strategy because it helps build up a supportive culture in the classroom. Personal and professional reference. In my opinion, the no opt-out technique is very useful because it gives the opportunity for every student to learn and practice getting the answers right. According to our text, many students come to school expecting to fail because they've normalized failure. Teachers sometimes forget how powerful it can be to experience a simple success when the good news is rare and elusive. My goal is to be a supportive and effective teacher and teach like a champion. Here are my references. Thanks for your time. This has been my PowerPoint presentation.